Okay, okay, thank you. So yesterday we were looking at this section on principal homogeneous spaces of elliptic curves, and there was a theorem which I had stated, which about classifying of all the principal homogeneous spaces of an elliptic curve, and half of that we had done, and then we had stopped. So I will repeat some of these parts again, but before I go to the theorem, I'll just like to keep this part, these properties of principal homogeneous spaces, which I had stated yesterday in front of you on the screen, because we will be using it several times. So these were all the properties which were also true for when we were looking homogeneous spaces sets. So here we have for curves again, there was a proposition 4, and there are similar properties for sets which I have stated here. So for instance, the addition on the points of E actually induces, it makes E and principal homogeneous space over E, and we call this trivial principal homogeneous space. Also, if W and W prime be two principal homogeneous space for E, and if you choose a point in WK and W prime K, then there will be a unique morphism of principal homogeneous space taking W to W prime, which takes this point small w to W prime. And also there will be always a finite extension on which W will have a point, and that's the extension where it will become trivial. So all these properties were there were similar properties for sets, and we will be using it here in the classification of principal homogeneous spaces. And so what we had done yesterday, that we had given a principal homogeneous space for E. So we had a pair basically, and let me just write down here. So we had a pair, and I'll use a different color maybe. We have a pair W, and given a principal homogeneous space, we chose a point W in that. So we get a pair of or tuple where first coordinate is the space itself, and the second one is the point on that. And using that, we defined a cross homomorphism on the Galois group. So FW we called it. Okay, and how that was defined? Again, is all these properties which I had stated. Using that, we noticed that if you apply if we apply sigma on an element of Galois group on W, W is an element here, and is an element of WK bar. If you apply sigma on this point W, then we get a relation like this for a unique point FW sigma of EK bar, and this FW sigma satisfies the condition for cross homomorphism. So that's how we get an element in H1 of. So that's how we get an element. This element was inside H1 of K of E. Okay. So yeah. So and then from the fact that this W will always have a point over a finite extension of K, we also notice that this FW is actually a continuous cross homomorphism, which will become trivial over an extension. Okay, so yeah, so this is something is important. So now we have two things. So we have again, I'll write here on this page also. So we have a point space W and a point small w on that, and then associated to that we have a cross homomorphism FW, I called it. So now we would like to show that.
Sir, we cannot hear you, Sudhanshu Shekhar, sir.
Oh, is that?
No, I can hear perfectly fine.
I can hear.
Yes.
Okay.
Who can hear?
No, we can hear, I think.
Yes, all of us can hear.
Okay. Maybe you can just have a look at your sound setting. Okay. So now we have this this association. So there are these 2 things. So first of all, we would like to show that this FW is independent of this point chosen W. So somehow instead of writing it FW, we can just write it F. Maybe F capital W would have been a better notation. And second thing, we would like to say that if there are 2 homogeneous spaces, W which is isomorphic to W prime, then we don't get two different elements in the cohomology group. So these are two things. So first, let us just show that if we have 2 points W and W prime on W, this capital W itself, then let us see how this cross homomorphism changes. And that's what I have shown here. So I have taken 2 points, W and W prime of W over K bar, and corresponding cross homomorphism we have FW. This is a comma, not W prime. So FW and comma FW prime. And so then again, by the property of principal homogeneous spaces, we get a unique element in the elliptic curve, unique point of elliptic curve, such that this relation holds. Now we apply the element of the Galois group on this relation and this equation, and we get ultimately this little bit of calculation. So just that this difference of these two cross homomorphism is actually a co-boundary. So so these two basically the class in H1K. This class in H1K comma E is independent of choice of this point W. That's what we have shown. Yes, I have made some small, and there was typo yesterday, which I have corrected it here. But in any case, now so now we have shown that this is independent of W. Now what about this isomorphism class of this space itself? And for that, so now let us take two principal homogeneous spaces, W and W prime, and let us take a isomorphism from W to W prime over K. Now we can choose any points to define the corresponding cross homomorphism. Choose a point small w in this and W prime in this, such that this W prime is the image of phi. Then again, we have this, we can just apply here. So we can apply here this on W, this element of Galois group, and corresponding, by definition, we get this is equal to W plus FW sigma. And applying phi, we have this relation here. So ultimately, this little calculation shows us that this FW and FW prime are actually equal, not just equal up to a co-boundary, but actually they are equal. That is because the way we chose this point W prime. Okay, so therefore, what we have shown is that if I take a pair like this, and corresponding cross homomorphism, if we consider, then it's independent of choice of the point here, and also independent of the choice of the element in isomorphism class of W. So this map from set of principal homogeneous spaces for E up to isomorphism to this H1K of E is well defined. Okay, so this gives us a function. Next thing is to, of course, show that this is actually an isomorphism, or I should rather use the word bijection. This is just a set. So this is a bijection. But before showing it's a bijection, let's see what are the elements which goes to zero class here. Okay, so suppose that FW sigma is equal to sigma P minus P. So this is that means that FW is a co-boundary. Then so this is true for some P belong to K bar. And then again, we see that this W minus P will be actually a point over K itself. So over K itself, W becomes trivial. Therefore, the principal homogeneous space W is actually trivial over actually trivial class. It gives us a trivial class. So that means at least, although there is no group structure a priori here, but at least we see that there is no non-trivial element which is going to trivial element here. Of course, now to show that it's an injection, we have to take any two element, and so that if they go to same thing, then those two elements must be isomorphic. Those two principal homogeneous spaces must be isomorphic. That's what we need to show. But at least we have shown that there is nothing non-trivial which can go to trivial other side. Okay. So as I said, we want to show that the elements of H1 classifies this principal homogeneous spaces over E. So this is the theorem 5 I have stated here. And this is what I was doing yesterday. So now let us take W and W prime be two. So first I will show it's an injective homomorphism. So injective function. So let W and W prime be principal homogeneous space of E over K. And then just by the definition of corresponding cross homomorphism, we have. So what we do, if we want to look at the corresponding cross homomorphism, so what we do, we can choose, and now we know that we can choose any point to define them. So we choose a point W in WK bar and W prime in capital W K bar here. Now suppose that FW equal to FW prime in H1 KE. So that means their classes are same. So they differ by a co-boundary. So they differ by a function of this form, sigma p minus p for some p. Okay, so this is by the definition of these two elements being same in H1K. We have this equality. Okay, yesterday I had actually written this one this side and this one this side, but I have changed here because that was giving me W prime plus P. Yeah, but anyway, I have now switched it this side. This W prime is earlier yesterday was this side. So now we have this difference of FW and FW prime is this. So let us apply the definition of again corresponding cross homomorphisms for W prime minus P. So we see that this sigma of W prime minus P is equal to W prime minus P plus this cross homomorphism, image of this cross homomorphism at sigma. And again, applying sigma and doing this little bit of manipulations here, we see that actually not their class. So we see that this, if the class of FW prime and FW are same, then the actual functions FW prime minus P and FW are same. So what this means that we can just replace our W prime with this W prime minus P and assume that not just their classes are same, the classes of corresponding cross homomorphisms are same, but the function itself are same. Okay, so now once we have two, because you see this W prime minus P is also an element of W prime of K bar. So this we know that this is actually equal to F of W prime. So this is fine. So now, because as we have already shown, it doesn't matter which point we choose, we get the same class. So now we have two cross homomorphisms. So we have two principal homogeneous spaces. They are giving us same cross homomorphisms. So we want to show that those two principal homogeneous spaces are isomorphic. So first of all, we notice that because as I have said, any principal homogeneous space becomes trivial over a finite extension, so it will become trivial over K bar itself. So therefore, over K bar we have such an isomorphism W to W bar over K bar with. So we have an isomorphism over K bar such that see, we have seen that if I have a principal homogeneous, if you have two principal homogeneous space and if you choose 2 points, 1 point from the first one, another point from the second one, then there exists an isomorphism which takes this first point to second point. Okay, so therefore we have an isomorphism which takes this W to W prime. Now take any arbitrary element, it should be X of K bar actually. It should be X of K bar, W of K bar, it should be K bar here. So take such a point here and then write it as for a unique Q here, write X as a W plus Q, such a Q exists and it's unique. And then we see that this phi commutes with sigma. The value of phi of sigma X equal to sigma of phi. This essentially means that phi is actually not, earlier we had taken phi defined over K bar, but actually what we have shown is that it's actually defined over K itself. So that means that those two principal homogeneous spaces are isomorphic over K itself. So this shows that this shows that this correspondence which I had given from set of principal homogeneous spaces to set of principal homogeneous spaces for E up to equivalence to H1 is actually injective. So this is the proof of injectivity. And what about surjectivity? So for surjectivity, I will just give a brief sketch.
Sudhanshu, sorry.
Yes.
Your video is off. Is that intended? Then it's fine.
No. I think okay. Maybe it got. Oh, okay. I think maybe I touched something. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
There was a question in chat, but maybe it is answered already.
Okay. Yeah. So already it has been answered. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now, so this is an injective. For surjectivity, I'll just give a brief sketch. But the key input comes from this equivalence of category, which I have stated here, where the smooth curves over K corresponds to function fields. So this finitely generated extensions of extension J of K of transcendence degree 1 with this property. So there is this correspondence which will be used several times. One need to use several times while proving this surjectivity. So surjectivity, by that I mean, given a cross homomorphic or given a class in H1, you get a principal homogeneous space. So how do you get that curve? So that curve is constructed using such a equivalence of category. Okay. So so let's just briefly give a brief sketch of this. So let us take an element. Let's take an element in H1, F. Let's call that F, and let's K bar E be the function field of E over K bar. Okay. So then for every sigma so for every element in the Galois group, every element sigma in the Galois group, we have an automorphism of from E to E, which takes, so which is basically the translation of X by F sigma. So F sigma is a point of elliptic curve over K bar. So we can just translate it, points of E using this F sigma. So so now basically this gives us an action of the Galois group of K bar over K on this function field. That's what it's doing by this function. Okay. So once we have this action, then what we can do is that we can take a fixed point here, fixed points or fixed elements here. So if we take this fixed element, this is in fact a field now. I call it F. Now it's a standard theorem, which I have not stated it in complete form, but from there it's called Spacier's lemma, and basically comes from theory of Galois descent, which actually says that if we take this F and K bar and compose this, then this is isomorphic to this function field of E over K bar via this. Actually, I have also given the map. Okay. Of course, you can find this in Silverman's book also and many other places. So what this implies? This implies that this field F also has transcendence degree 1 over K. So now you use that correspondence. So basically you get a curve W. You get a curve W here, corresponding to F, such that K bar F equal to, so K bar F equal to function field of E over K bar. And so now again we use that equivalence of category. We have that says that we have so not just there is a curve, but also there is an isomorphism of from W to E over K bar. Okay, because of this and that, again, that correspondence. So now I have it essentially follows from the construction of the way we have constructed this psi, and also a little bit of calculation which I have skipped here, and that see you'll recognize this if you try to compare it with the connecting homomorphism which I have discussed before, some relationship with this. But anyway, as I said, it's from the construction of psi and little bit of calculation actually gives you that this map and this psi sigma composed psi inverse is actually given by this inverse translation of F sigma. So that means translation by minus of F sigma. So, and here psi sigma is the usual element. This psi sigma is the usual element. You compose psi with psi inverse and psi from both sides. So now we have a candidate. So we have a curve now which we can make a principal homogeneous space. We have a candidate W, and of course that W is also isomorphic to E over K bar. So now, so if I want to define a principal homogeneous space, then I also need that action of E on W. So that's what I have done here. So this is this map, besides map, which gives us action of E on W. So you first apply, so take a point small w on here W, and apply first psi and then add P, because now after applying psi, you get an element here, EK bar, and then add P in that. and they take the inverse image. So that will give us that gives us an action of E on W. So it makes this action actually makes W a principal homogeneous space. And now finally, we are to end it. We want to show that. So remember, we had begun with all this construction we had done associated to this function f. So we had this f, and then corresponding f sigma we get, and then using that we had this map, translation map, and all these things. Finally, all these things are associated to f. So we want to show that on the correspondence which we had given, that given a principal homogeneous space, a point, and we had got a cross homomorphism. So this associated to this principal homogeneous space W, the cross homomorphism is nothing but the function f which we started with. So for that we need a point. So the point candidate, we can take it to be the inverse image of the identity in 0 in A. So you see 0 is anyway defined over K itself, not K bar. So we take this point, and so this is the candidate we can take. And then once we have this candidate, we apply the definition of psi sigma inverse. And again, you see here, you can just look at, from here, I take this psi sigma inverse from, I know that this is equal to this. I know this is equal to this. So that's what I substitute. This equality is by the definition of psi sigma. And then substituting psi sigma inverse using that relation just now I told you this equality of these two, we have, this is nothing but the image of nothing but the image of mu under image of W naught comma f sigma by mu. So this is W naught plus f sigma. Yeah, so that's what the definition of cross homomorphism was. Therefore, image of this principal homogeneous space is the cross homomorphism we began with. Therefore, it's a surjective map. Okay. Yeah. So this completes that. So what we have shown finally, let me just briefly say. So we had one side we had set of all principal homogeneous spaces up to, of course, equivalence isomorphisms, and another side we had H1 KE, and we had shown that these two, there is a very nice explicit isomorphism between these two sets. Okay, so this is all about the geometric interpretations of elements of Galois cohomology group of elliptic curves. Now let K be a number field. So now let's come to our, we were right from the beginning actually. So far I had not assumed anywhere number field, although I assumed our field to be perfect field, but other than that I had not assumed anything. But now let's just come to number field. So let K be a number field. Then for a prime the V of K, let KV denote the completion of K at V. Okay, and then let us take an elliptic curve E defined over K. So once I have a curve over K, I can also, the same curve E is also a curve over KV, and the Tate Seprovich group is defined as the kernel of this restriction map. So remember, in the beginning of this lectures, we had defined a function called a restriction function, a restriction map of group cohomology. So you can see absolute Galois group of KV is a subgroup of absolute Galois group of K. So you can just restrict these elements which are classes of principal homogeneous spaces over K to or classes of cross homomorphisms here to here. Here V varies over all primes, infinitely many, including Archimedean primes. So all primes. So this is, and then this kernel is defined as the Tate Seprovich group of E. So if you look at, in terms of, if you want to interpret it geometrically, then Sa is nothing but it contains all those principal homogeneous spaces which has points everywhere locally. So you see, if principal homogeneous space is trivial if it has a point over that field, trivial over a field L if it has a point over that field. So, so this contains all those points, all those homogeneous spaces which are trivial over KV. for every V. But of course, I mean, if it has a point over K also, then it will be trivial element here. Otherwise, it could be not. So non-trivial elements here are precisely those which has points everywhere locally, but no point over K. So in other words, SAR classifies all those principal homogeneous spaces which do not satisfy Hasse principle. So it measures the failure of Hasse principle for principal homogeneous spaces. So that's what the Tate-Šefčovič group is. Famous conjecture that such number of such isomorphism classes of such spaces has to be finite. So for a given elliptic curve E, in fact, it should be not just finite, but its cardinality should be perfect square. In fact, if you know it's finite, then you can show cardinality is perfect square. So the conjecture is that this is a finite group. Over Q, anyway, there are several lectures. For example, Anupam had mentioned some of the results before when it is known over Q for a small rank elliptic curve. That's very little is known for general curve, even for over Q in general, little is known. So this was all about Tate-Šefčovič group, which I wanted to discuss. Now we will come to slowly we'll move to Selmer group, but before we define Selmer groups, we need to define the corresponding Galois curve homology groups in which they reside. So they are inside. Okay, so that Galois curve homology group is H1K of E bracket En. So what is E bracket N? This is denote the N torsion points of E. So when I say E, I mean E. If you look at points, then basically they are over K bar. Okay, so these are N torsion points of E over K bar. These are also, in fact, you know that this is equal to Z mod N direction Z mod N. So product of those two cyclic groups. Okay, so now we have, let's just, before I define, so we had the Galois homology group H1 of K comma E, and we also had a geometric interpretation of that. So we'd like to have a similar interpretation for elements in E bracket N. So again, we assume all those assumptions, like let's take a perfect field of characteristic P co-prime to an integer N. So if it's also allowed characteristic to be 0 here when I say co-prime to N. So then, given such an elliptic curve, we can consider this multiplication by N map here, which is actually an isogeny and therefore a surjective map. And as a consequence, we get this exact sequence. Here, when I write EK, maybe to be precise, I should also write EK bar here. When I write EK, it can be written to EK bar. That's what I mean. Okay. So once you have such a short exact sequence, remember from the beginning of the yesterday's lecture, we had such a long exact sequence also. And this was, here is the connecting homomorphism delta. Okay, so this is the delta. So we get this short exact sequence. Okay, so then what about, as I said, we need to also have a geometric, should also have a geometric interpretation of elements of here. So before relating this exact sequence to the Selmer group, let me just briefly do that. So earlier we had principal homogeneous spaces correspondingly. Now we have what are called N covering associated to E. They will also be principal homogeneous spaces, but some more data is given associated to such elements in such Galois homology groups. So these are called N covering. So an N covering is a pair W comma alpha consisting of a principal homogeneous space W for E and a morphism of varieties from W to E. Okay, so not merely it's a principal homogeneous space, but also there is a given morphism from W to E over K. So this morphism be demanded over K, such that if I take a point of W over K bar and apply this, so see, because W is a principal homogeneous space, we can add W plus P and then apply alpha on this. So we demand it to be equal to NP. Okay, inside elliptic curve. So if this is happening, then we say W is a N covering of E. And a morphism, so once we have such an object, we also would like to define morphisms between such objects. So they are precisely the morphisms of corresponding principal homogeneous spaces which satisfy, which commutes with, which satisfy this property. Okay. Not commute, but yeah, this is what is demanded. So now let us take a N covering W comma alpha. So it's a pair now. So a homogeneous space and a morphism like this. So it's a pair. So let us take such a pair, and then corresponding to W, corresponding to an element in W K bar, we can again, just like before, we can define a cross morphism like this, which will land inside. So here you see the definition is same, but the point is that because of this property that alpha is a cross homomorphism, alpha is a morphism of variety over K. We see that this F sigma is actually killed by N. So that means that it lands inside this F W image. Should be W here. So it should be W here. W here. So it lands inside E of N. Again, there is a small mistake here. Let me just correct. N. Okay. So yeah, so this gives us an element in the cohomology, this Galois cohomology group of E bracket, and everywhere it's I have sometimes used to write P torsion points only. So I have written here P, but it should be N. Just make it N. Wherever sometimes I have, it should be N. Yeah, sorry for this. Okay. So yeah, so there is again similarly, just like before, we have a map, we have a correspondence and coverings, and then elements in this Galois cohomology group. And proof is just like the theorem 5, which was for Galois cohomology group of E over K. Word to word proof works here too, and we can show that this phi n is actually a bijection. This is all about the geometric interpretation of elements of H1KEN, which I wanted to describe. Of course, there are more to it, and the whole theory of descent elliptic curves, which I will not be discussing. So now, once you have this, now let us come back to our topic, Selmer groups. So let K be a number field and E over K be an elliptic curve. Let N greater than 1 be an integer. Consider again, we had this exact sequence before. So I just rewrite it here. The delta is the connecting homomorphism. The group H1K. So one thing I want to mention that this H1K is H1KEN for a number field K, and elliptic curve E over K is always infinite. It's a very large group for an elliptic curve E over K. And this one, anyway, I mean, model will theorems. Of course, so next we are going to, soon we will be giving a proof of what is called weak modelable theorem. So this is supposed to be finite. This is finite. So this very small group which we want to study is somewhere sitting inside this very large group. We want to study this, and somewhere sitting inside this very large group. So we want to have something smaller inside this, okay, which also contains this. That's what is Selmer. Okay, something smaller and also on which we can put our hands on. Okay, so now, yeah, so now let's just give it straight away the definition. As I said, we want something smaller in this called N-Selmer group. So first I will define what I call N-Selmer group, and then I will define Selmer group. And it also, you demand it to also contain this EK mod and EK. how it is defined, it just in terms of group cohomology, you just take all those cohomology classes which are trivial. So here you notice this difference. So it may give you, even though it's a Selmer group of E bracket n, it's not that E bracket n determines the N-Selmer group. So even though here you have E bracket n, here you have all the points. Okay, so this is something one needs to. So N-Selmer group is not determined by the n torsion points of elliptic curve in general. Okay, so yeah, this is the difference. So that just basically means that we have Selmer group is nothing but the set of all. It consists of all those n covering which are locally trivial, but actually is not trivial. Actually may not be trivial over. Of course, if it is trivial, then it gives us trivial class here itself. But yeah, it basically consists of all those n covering which are locally trivial. Okay. Maybe I should not say N-Selmer group is the set of n covering which fails to. It classifies, I should say. It classifies. The trivial one is also there, which gives us trivial element. So N-Selmer group classifies all those. Basically, it measures the failure of Hasse principle for n covering. That's the precise statement. And so how does Selmer group is related to, as I said, we also want, and this Selmer group should contain this model will group modulo n of modulo n. We want that. So how? So and also we want to know how it is related with the Tate-Šeferović group itself. So here is a relation. There is an exact sequence. First term is Ek mod n Ek. Then they have N-Selmer group, and then we have n torsion points of n torsion elements of Tate-Šeferović group. So Selmer group since somehow this is something, this is an object hard to determine. This is an object which is hard to determine, but this is something much more easier to determine. This exact sequence is an immediate consequence of the commutative diagram, which I will be showing you in the next page. So what is that? Let me make it smaller. So here is this commutative diagram. So you have this definition of N-Selmer group up there in first horizontal sequence. Second one is the definition of star, but I instead of considering all the elements, I just take the n torsion elements. Okay, and we have this diagram which is commutative, and now this is from this one is the connecting homomorphism here. So now we just immediately get this exact sequence by applying snake lemma. This is an isomorphism. This one is an isomorphism here, and so therefore the kernel here is precisely this. And because this is an isomorphism, although there is no surjection here, but still you can apply snake lemma to show that this is surjective. Okay, and the kernel here is this. Therefore, this sequence is exact. Okay. So now, as I said, we want something which contains Ek mod n Ek and also it to be finite. So now next thing is something which we want to show that this N-Selmer group is finite for any n. Once we have that, then immediately this exact sequence will tell us that this is also finite, which is what is big model is here. So what we need to do is that we need to show that this is finite. Okay. Yeah. So how do we show this is finite? So we need to prepare for it. There is some basic properties lemmas we want. So first, so we need some properties of elliptic curves over local field. So let V be a discrete valuation of the field K, so finite prime, and let us just take that prime doesn't divide M. Maybe I have made here mistake. It should not be M, but it should be N. It should be N. Okay. So let us assume that V doesn't divide N. Then
Sudhanshu, sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Are the slides moving? Somebody is thinking slides are frozen.
Okay, it seems okay. So it seems okay, but you have not missed much. I see that it's frozen. It's not frozen on my tablet, but it's frozen on.
Sir, actually, there is a voice breakup also. So it would be good that if you can turn off your videos, just share the screen and you can give the talk.
You
Yeah,
want
there
me
is
to?
some interruption and the slide also frozen.
So I should stop sharing and then reshare it. That's what I should do, right? Okay, let me just moving properly. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's moving.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So okay. So I think you have not missed much. So we had this. The next thing is this lemma, which essentially relates the points of elliptic curve, n torsion points of elliptic curve over number field and finite field. So this is in the case when E has good reduction at the prime V, and also we assume that V doesn't divide N. Okay. So suppose that E has good reduction at V, and let E tilde V. Once it has a good reduction, then we get going modulo the prime V. We get an elliptic curve over the corresponding residue field. Then the lemma says that the n torsion points here actually injects here. It injects here. Okay. It's essentially, I mean, it's a theorem. It's also much more general fact about kind of variety algebraic group, which basically says that first statement you can show is that once we have a principal homogeneous space over finite field for a algebraic group, then it's trivial, always trivial, and then you can use Hansen's lemma to come back to the number field itself. So that kind of thing is happening here, but I would just do whatever bare minimum we have already seen before. Basically, much more elementary way to do it. All these arguments you can anywhere find in Silverman's book. So from the structure of rational points of elliptic curve over local field, and using the assumption that you had good reduction at V, we have such an exact sequence. So we have these points of, usually what you get here is E naught K, that is all those points which goes over finite field, all those points which goes over finite field, corresponding points over finite field, which are like basically good part when you take here. In general, it's a smaller group, but because we have a good reduction here, we get such an exact sequence. And the kernel is denoted by E1K. And this kernel has a very nice description in terms of formal group of E. And further, again, general theory of formal group, what we have is that this has no, again, this is N here. This should be N here. So this has no n torsion point. So there are two things you need to know for this. First is and V doesn't divide N, and second is for this exact sequence, we need to know that it has a good reduction. Okay. So once we have that there is no n torsion point here, then n torsion points here must inject here. Okay. So therefore, this basically proves the lemma. Second is that, so as I said, we want to show that N-Selmer group is finite. So what we do basically look at so if you take a cohomology class in Selmer group, how it behaves locally. So what essentially we are going to do is we are going to show that outside a finite set of primes, elements in Selmer groups are actually N-Selmer groups are actually unramified. Okay, so here some of the terminology which you have already seen in Sonnenstock. There was a finite set of prime S, and there was a field KS, maximal extension unramified outside S. That's what that will come here again. So let me just make these definitions precise. So for a number field K and a prime V of K, let I be with the inertia subgroup of at V, and we say an element here H1 KVM. So here M again, I mean that it's a discrete modulo over the absolute Galois group of KB. So element here is called said to be unramified if its restriction to inertia subgroup is trivial. Okay, so natural definition. Yes.
Is it frozen again?
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know what is happening. I think everything is all right here. I don't know. Okay. So now, yeah. So I want to. Okay, let me just repeat this definition. So for a number field K and a prime V of K, let IV be the inertia subgroup at V, and we say an element F in this group homology. So here M, for any M which is a discrete module over the absolute Galois group of KB, we say that an element here is unramified if restriction to inertia subgroup is trivial. Again, just like we had over number field, we have such an exact sequence over this local field also, and delta V is the corresponding connecting homomorphism. Recall the definition of connecting homomorphism. It was, so what we did? We had given a points here. We kind of pulled back to EKV, not NEKV, but EKV. And so we got a point like this. And then using that, with this formula, we defined delta V. So I just recalled the definition here. Okay. So what is the element of this? What is the proper? So let me, so next lemma is essentially telling us the behavior of image of this delta V at inertia subgroups. This lemma says that suppose E has a good reduction at V, and again this V of N is 0, that means he doesn't divide N, then for every P belong to EKV, its image under connecting homomorphism is unramified. Okay, that's what this lemma is about. Again, the proof is simple. So if you take an element in the inertia subgroup and apply the definition of, let us pull back this point P here. P belong to EK bar such that N of Q equal to P. Then Q sigma minus Q belong to En. So sometimes this Q bar, you may get confused with K bar, so don't get confused. This Q bar is just the image of Q in this over the residue field. Okay, so because of that, we have Q bar of sigma equal to, because see, sigma is an element of inertia subgroup. So that means the sigma is trivial going modulo inertia subgroup. Therefore, in this over this, these 2 points are same. Okay, so this is 0 in this, and now we use the previous lemma because we know that this is an n torsion point, and we know that n torsion point injects into the our finite field. So in the finite field, so therefore from previous lemma, what we get is that delta P I sigma, this itself is 0. This itself is 0. Okay, so therefore delta V P is unramified. So what we have shown? We have shown that if I have a, let me just reduce the size. If I have an element in the Selmer group, then it's yeah. So given an element in the Selmer group, we know that by definition, its image is locally trivial. Okay. So once it's locally trivial, then look at here. This exact sequence. It's trivial here. So what this means? This means that such elements are in the image of this delta V. But we have shown that this outside this set of primes of bad reduction and the primes dividing N, this is actually unramified. Image of this is unramified. Okay, so this shows that Selmer group, n Selmer group contains precisely those elements which are Selmer group is contained in those set of those elements which are unramified outside this S and the branch dividing N. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I have explained here. This is first of all I have said that because if F is locally trivial from this exact sequence. Moving this slide from this exact sequence, we have that F is in the image of this delta V, and then that actually implies that you can define Selmer group equivalently in this way, and we have shown just now that that image of delta V dividing N is actually unramified. So yeah, so that gives us a nicer description of elements in the Selmer group. In the next session, I will just complete this. I don't want to start it here because yeah, and also maybe you can ask me questions in the next few minutes. So next session we will show that this N Selmer group is finite, and that in turn will also give us weak model theorem. Okay. Yeah, I'll just stop it here, and next session I'll begin with the proof of finiteness of Selmer group.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. Okay. Any questions, comments, remarks? Okay, so I think it will be uploaded, right, Somnath?
Yes, I will upload. So
yes.
Yeah. Slide
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sudhanshu. So let's thank the speaker. I think that's the end of the today's talk, right? I mean, it will start from tomorrow.